Hello and welcome to Chapter 5 of Fathers of Nations. I'm glad to be in your company. Let's get started. Before the Banjul summit ever happened, Dr. Afolabi's story took a different turn. Months earlier, he had been invited by the Foundation for Democratic Rule in Washington to give a keynote speech at their annual conference. For his wife Pamela, that invitation was heaven sent. It gave her a reason, and a ticket, to visit her father in Boston, whom she hadn't seen in over 6 years. So, she cleared her schedule, packed her bags, and rode on the back of her husband's fully funded trip, determined to make that reunion happen. When they arrived in Boston, Pamela's father wasn't home, but she knew exactly where he hid his spare key. She let them in. Abiola dropped the luggage, stretched his stiff body from the long flight, and decided to take a walk. Out in the open, Boston was glowing under a flawless summer sky. He watched people, thousands of them, soaking in the weather. He noticed something new. America had grown older, more old faces than he remembered from his Harvard days. In his Africa, the elderly lived surrounded by family. But here, many lived alone, in quiet homes or nursing facilities, their children long gone. Inside a downtown department store, Dr. Afolabi walked in just to look, but temptation won. A shiny shaving razor called his name. He didn't need it, but somehow, he did. At the checkout line, he found himself behind an old man, scruffy, chatty, full of lonely energy. The old man wasn't buying anything. He was showing off a device he called Baby, a watch that measured his blood pressure. "I dropped Baby in coffee this morning," he said proudly. "But she still works. See." The cashier smiled, humored him kindly, and let him talk. When the old man finally left, she sighed and whispered to the next customer. "You didn't mind that, did you, Mom? We get people like him all the time. They just want to touch and be touched. Listen and be listened to. Not to watch television at home alone all day." Afolabi watched her handle the man with grace. But what struck him most was the loneliness in the old man's eyes. What would the old fellow do next? Would he go to show Baby to another chatty girl at a checkout counter, or brag about Baby to a friend over a booze in a bar? Or would he simply go back home and watch TV? It was hard to say which one it would be. As he stepped out, he saw a biracial toddler, half black, half white, giggling as it fed pigeons. The child reminded him of a future that never was. He got thinking of how his children with Pamela would have been. He had wanted children, 2 of his own. On the other hand, Pamela wanted 2 as well, but adopted. She said Africa already had too many orphans to bring new ones into the world. Neither of them gave in, so they remained childless, not by fate, but by impasse. When he returned to the house, Pamela's father was finally home. He was sitting on a couch, admiring an African gift mask Pamela had brought him, and proudly showing off a blood pressure watch his friend from Arizona had sent him. Dr. Afolabi froze. The lonely old man from the department store, the one who called his device Baby, was his father-in-law. He swore to himself he would never tell Pamela what he had seen. A week later, their flight from Washington to Nigeria had a scene of its own. A noisy passenger from first class insisted on sitting next to his friend in economy. After some persuasion, Pamela swapped seats with him, expecting her husband to join her, but he never did. When that failed to happen, she asked why. Fake smiles were the only answers she got. She and her husband ended up traveling in different cabins. Settling down in economy class, next to Dr. Afolabi, the man, with the booming voice and green marble eyes, turned to Afolabi. "Tad Longway," he introduced himself. "Director of Special Projects, Agency for Governance and Development in Africa." He held out a business card and Dr. Afolabi took it. "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Longway," Dr. Afolabi said. "My name is Abiola Afolabi. I teach at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria." Mr. Longway had seen Afolabi's keynote speech at the Foundation for Democratic Rule. He was there as a spectator. He praised it, then pressed further, challenging Africa's failures, talking about corruption and impunity as 2 partners in crime and the need for change in Africa. And then came his proposition. "I was wondering whether you might be interested in an adventure that is being sponsored by AGDA. Its underlying idea is to mobilize out discontent with Africa, in its present state, into will to change it." It was then that Dr. Afolabi realized this meeting between the two was not just a mere coincidence, it was planned. Dr. Afolabi had been invited by heads of states to the summit in Banjul, Gambia, to serve as an advisor and give his views on Wayamega. "So, what are they, your views?" Mr. Longway asked. "That the summit should go with Wayamega." It will change our style of doing business. No more military coups, rigged elections, civil wars or ethnic clashes, Dr. Afolabi answered. Mr. Longway had another alternative, to replace Way Omega with Path Alpha. He went ahead to explain to Afolabi that Way Omega was top-driven and lacks the will for its implementation. On the other hand, Path Alpha is bottom-led and has the will. Would you help guide 4 Path Alpha travelers to the Banjul summit? Asked Mr. Longway. Afolabi hesitated. Way Omega had his loyalty, but Path Alpha had his curiosity. Back home in Nigeria, something was off. Pamela's house helper, Issa, stopped her at the door. "Madam, I think you best no go in room that be yours." "Please, no go inside," he begged. Pamela was confused. She didn't understand why her house helper was preventing her from getting into her own house. "But Issa, inside be bedroom of mine," she said, resulting into broken English as well. Issa said, "Yes, but please no go in, madam. There be person you know going like." She was intrigued. Was it a burglar? Her confusion turned into irritation. But when she pushed through, the truth slammed into her. A strange man stepped out of her bathroom, zipping his fly, buttoning his shirt. A long scar ran across his face. "And who are you?" Pamela demanded answers. The man ignored her and spoke only to Abiola, in Yoruba, his mother tongue. Her anger turned to disbelief when Abiola admitted he knew the man. He was Femi, his cousin from Kaduna. The man, Femi, said he had been sent by folks from back home to bring Dr. Afolabi a new wife that can bear him children, since Pamela couldn't. That's why he was here. Pamela had heard enough. She stormed away at a run and disappeared, only to reappear with a broomstick in her hands, chasing a young girl she had found in her bed. The cousin called out, "Nimbo, ho!" The girl ran to him, calling back, "Femi, ho!" It was chaos, betrayal, confusion, heartbreak. Pamela demanded they leave the house immediately. Abiola tried to calm her, torn between family and marriage. He couldn't chase him out in the night. He pleaded with Pamela to let them stay for the night and leave the following day, but Pamela wasn't having it. She accused him of being in cahoots with them. When Abiola hesitated, she made her decision. That night, she walked out, suitcase in hand, heart shattered. A week later, from her father's house in Boston, she called him. "I filed for divorce," she said. And that was how a brilliant mind, a loving husband, and a hopeful wife, each driven by different dreams, fell apart. Sometimes, what breaks a marriage isn't betrayal, but silence, distance, and pride. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Tsoni Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and join me in the next one. Ciao!